Let's get a show of hands right here off the top. Who's ever, Darren?
Yes, what?
Already an attitude problem. Here we go.
Just trying to follow directions, Paul.
2 words, splash zone. Have you ever sat in a splash zone before? Go to SeaWorld, Shamu, the splash zone.
I try and avoid those at all costs.
I'm nervous where this is going.
See, there are 2 kinds of people in this world. Those who will sit in the splash zone and
Not
those
me.
who most definitely will not. Unfortunately, last time I was at Universal Studios a few years ago, we went on Jurassic Park. We found out the hard way it was most definitely a splash zone when I had assured my wife it was not. She's still
Wait,
mad
what?
at me. Still mad at me.
That whole ride is like a splash zone.
Big
though.
finish at the end.
Yeah, I've been on it.
Yeah, supposedly if you're sitting, But we were seated in the very front car.
Oh, that's not good.
And that was not good. And it's one of those things where you wait an hour and then you get in and it's like you sit down and you take your place and you shut it and you go and then boom, soak the rest of the trip. I bring that up because the splash zone, I think, is an apt description of where we are in the week leading up to the draft. Stuff flying everywhere. And you're going to get wet. And you may or may not like it, and you probably have nothing to do with it, but there is stuff splashing everywhere at this point. That's my analogy. Does that work? Danny's looking a little incredulous.
Well, I mean, I'm going to let Dani speak on this in a minute. I got to back up a minute. There's a difference to me between a splash zone and a ride that is specifically about the splash. Jurassic Park is specifically about the splash. That is just an error in judgment. Like if you're going to one of those Shamu shows, they actually paint the bleachers where you're not supposed to.
That is
sit.
true. Or like there's a Universal show, Water World.
Yes.
Guess what? It's mostly a splash zone.
Yes, that's
Hence,
true.
Water World, one of the biggest flops in movie history.
That show is pretty good, though.
Kevin Costner.
Just saying.
But
Danny,
you know,
I want Danny to chime in.
I mean,
on this.
Danny, the log ride is a splash zone. Shamu is a splash zone. But I mean, Jurassic Park, you don't necessarily know going in unless apparently you're a aficionado like Darren.
I've never been on Jurassic Park, and normally I am team Paul Calvisi. I don't know that I follow this analogy. What exactly are you being splashed with? I presume around draft news. What exactly are you seeing that you haven't already been seeing for
Hot
months?
takes.
I'll give you the latest, greatest example. It now comes out that the Giants are having a special one-on-one private workout with Jalen Milroe. That Jalen Milroe has been invited to the draft in Green Bay. One of 17 players. I know how much a year ago you guys enjoyed my marketing slogan, let there be a 4th QB.
Oh, man, is it back?
And at this point, we have 4,
Wait.
count them, 4 QBs who will be among the 17 players in attendance in Green Bay.
And you think they're all going to get drafted before 16?
And that's not even including Shedeur Sanders, who's not attending. So there could be a 5th. I'm telling
Paul,
you,
we just lost every listener.
We are in a splash zone right now. And you know what? If there is a Jackson Dart or a Jalen Milroe, who could be a legit first-round pick, all the better for the Arizona Cardinals sitting there at 16.
I don't know if legally if I'm allowed to do this. So if I'm not, then just pretend you don't hear it. If there are 5 quarterbacks drafted before the Cardinals at 16, I'll give you $100.
No, I'm not saying
all,
before 16.
I was going to say the Giants pick at 34.
By the way, you should have taken that 100 a year ago because the over-under was 4.5, and there were 5 quarterbacks taken by Denver at number 12. I'm sorry.
But we, of course, would never wager ever anywhere near this.
Just the competition.
Job. But anyways, they're picking 34. So would we really be that surprised if they went from 34 to 31 to pick Jalen Milroe at the end of the first round? That's still a first-round quarterback, but that's a whole lot different than if some guy's going 12 or 15, or in the Giants' case, 3.
I'm just saying, I find it a little curious. Some of the players that have been, invited to actually attend the draft. For example, Shamar Stewart has been invited. He's been all over the board. He might be an Aaron Rodgers and sit there all night on camera.
Will Levis was there and wasn't drafted in the first round.
Shamar Stewart is going in the first round. Now, he might not go till 30, but he's going in the
Paul
first
just
round.
say, "Oh, that's news to Paul." Paul, what mock drafts are you looking at that there's 5 quarterbacks being taken in the first round and Shamar Stewart is not?
I'm just looking at who's been invited on Thursday night, round 1, to Green Bay. usually you're not invited, and you
I
most
think
certainly
that's just
don't
the list of
accept.
people who have accepted.
I mean, you don't willingly say, "Yeah, I'm going to sit there, and be the guy with the." Did I get it in the right? Be the guy with the L on his forehead.
Will Levis.
All
But
night.
again, Levis is a good example of not making. But let's just, for argument's sake, we'll talk about Milroe. If Milroe, who a lot of people weren't even sure would go in the first 2 rounds, if he goes 30, 31, 32, and he's sitting there all day and gets picked at the very end of the first round, that's a big win. Like, that's not sitting around. I mean, he's not expecting to go that high.
Could be a Lamar Jackson situation, right?
Yeah, but the difference there
Didn't the
was
Ravens trade up in right the very end
yes,
of round 1, right?
But the difference there was, I think, obviously in hindsight, the Lamar stuff was stupid in terms of not going higher. But Lamar was always seen as a guy, like, if you were willing to bet on him in terms of being a quarterback in this league. Like, the problem I have with Jalen Milroe is, like, everybody's like, he struggles throwing on air, for goodness sake.
Yes, he does.
So I don't think that was ever a huge problem with Lamar Jackson. I think it was the Lamar Jackson thing, I think, had RG3 repercussions there. Like, hey, this guy's like RG3. And look at when a guy ran that much and he got hurt so early and then he was done. And obviously that was the dumbest thing anybody ever thought. But
Do you think that Josh Allen has maybe convinced NFL teams that, we got a quarterback whisperer of a quarterback coach on our staff, and guess what? He can work with a Jalen Milroe. That accuracy can be improved. And guess what? He's such a ridiculous athlete, and he's so dominant in terms of his skill set that we can fine-tune some of these, quarterback skills that he's going to need.
And is that worth using a first-round draft pick on? When there's so many question marks and you're relying on so many things, I would much rather be in the camp of maybe taking a risk like that on day 2 in rounds 2 or 3 than using a first-round pick on a quarterback that you're taking simply because you think they're athletic.
We're going to talk about this. Whoever takes whoever, you're going to talk about it for however long you're going to talk about it. But in the long term, nobody sits and talks about Blaine Gabbert anymore or Jake Locker. They talk about Jalen Hurts. They talk about the success stories.
Yeah.
You're going to take shots at quarterbacks because you have to have one. And when we talk about in the individual time, yes, it's a risk and all this stuff. But at the same time, if you hit on one, if you Brock Purdy your way into a good quarterback, like, that's all you need for a number of years. So that's why people are going to take that risk. And the other thing, too, is if you're picking at 30 or 31, the numbers say you're just as likely to pick up a bust of a tight end or an offensive lineman or a cornerback as you are a quarterback. So,
well, now you have New Orleans really desperately needing a quarterback at number 9, right? With the Derek Carr news.
yes.
So
They might have desperately needed one anyways.
What about Taysom Hill?
well,
Spencer Rattler.
Shedeur Sanders is not. Well, okay, true or false? Shedeur Sanders is not getting past New Orleans at number 9. True or false?
I'm not willing to say either one of those right
I
now.
think I say false.
I still love the Adam Schefter appearance on the podcast. What was it, a week ago or so, where he was asked about something, and then he just sort of morphed into, and I'm quoting because I had to write this down. I do not want to misquote Adam Schefter as a guest on a podcast. We're talking and imagining here. I don't think it's likely, but I'm not completely dismissing it. I don't think Arizona is likely, but what if all of a sudden they take Shedeur Sanders and it puts them in a position where they can move on from Kyler Murray? And I'm like, okay, did someone plant that because they want the Steelers to come up from 21 to 16? And is that part of this whole process? Or is it just reason to do what I've done here in the last 24 hours? You know what I've done? I've dusted off a new word that really goes back.
A new word?
Well, a new word in my vocabulary.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, you're creating words here.
That goes back, I'd say 500 years to the 1500s at least. Balderdash. You ever heard of the word balderdash?
I have.
It's another word for
I'm a
nonsense.
wordsmith, Paul.
It's another word for senseless, stupid, or exaggerated talk or writing. Good for you, Darren. Nonsense, noise, balderdash. So I think this is either. And if you don't like splash zone, Dani, how about Balderdash? Would you take that? Is this a Balderdash zone between now and draft night?
Are my only options Balderdash or splash zone?
Correct.
We're willing to let. I'm taking all ideas. Like if you want to put in something to battle Paul's words or phrases, go right ahead.
I'll pass.
Speaking of Balderdash, we have another mock draft. By the way, note to self, next year for Lent, I'm giving up mock drafts.
No, you're not.
Earlier today, Mike Band, NFL.com, you're like, who in the sand name of is Mike Band? He puts in there a little note under his byline. The last 5 years, his mock draft accuracy ranks 5th among 75 national experts. And so anyway, he has the Cardinals still going D-line, adding Kenneth Grant.
You seem upset about
Yeah,
this.
well,
The wrecking ball out of Michigan.
You don't approve of a D lineman at 16 given the offseason moves?
How many D linemen are you going to keep on the final 53? Is that true?
10.
Is that truly doable at this point?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
If that's the position where you are not only still getting a position of need, but also one of the deeper positions in this draft class and getting what you hope is somebody who can be a pillar for this defensive line for years to come, I don't know why you would pass that up. That is a position that relies on rotation in this defense. That's a position when you're starting to look at depth. Not a lot of players under contract past 2025. The players that are here through 2026, handful of them don't have guaranteed money, which would lend it possible that the team could move on at that point. So I still think defensive line makes perfectly good sense at 16.
It's true. L.J. Collier, 1-year deal. Bilal Nichols, Justin Jones. Okay.
Calais Campbell.
I get it. Okay. By the way, he gave probabilities for every team of the first position group they draft. And he had in order Cardinals D-line, most probable, O-line, second most probable, corner, third most probable. Agree or disagree with those probabilities?
Disagree. I think O-line is more probable than D-line right now. I'm agreeing with Dani that if the right defensive lineman, again, when we start talking about, I saw something the other day that said, teams wanting to trade back in the top 10 are going to have a hard time because there's nobody in the top 10 where once you get to 5, there's nobody worth coming up for. Maybe the quarterback, but again, you don't know. And there's not a whole lot of difference talent-wise for a lot of these analysts and scouts between the 6th best player and the 25th best player. So why would you be trading up? Like if you and on that same note, like again, if you feel, and we're just naming a name here, but if you feel Kenneth Grant is really that guy and the offensive linemen you have available to you at 16 are a step below and a cornerback is a step below or whoever's a step below, why wouldn't you take the defensive lineman? That's the antithesis of everything Monty Austin-Fort stands for. Antithesis, Paul. Do you know that word?
Is it older than Balderdash? I think Balderdash has street cred on antithesis, probably. I believe. I'm not sure. You know who else isn't sure right now? The latest from Travis Hunter. He's still not sure what position he's going to play in the NFL. He said on the visits he's taking, his top 30 visits, some teams say go meet with the offensive coaches first. Some teams say no, go meet with the defensive coaches first. He's still not exactly sure what position he's going to play when his career begins. Forget about what team he's going to. What side of the ball? And maybe that's our segue. Speaking of cornerback and speaking of both sides of the ball, into Patrick Peterson, who got a handful of snaps on the offensive side over the course of his career.
Just those first, through 2013, just his first 3 years, I noticed when I went and did the research.
Was that an opportunity missed? Do you think in hindsight that Patrick Peterson should have been utilized more as a weapon on offense?
I mean, if you recall correctly, Paul, which I know you do, he had a couple in 11 and a couple in 12 with Wisenhunt. Bruce Arians came in and I think gave him, I want to say it was 38 offensive snaps that year. He never played another offensive snap the rest of his career. And the big reason, as much as it was about his athleticism, it was because Bruce Arians did not like his receiving core that in 2013. He had Michael Floyd and he had Larry, and then there wasn't a whole lot else. So
and then they took John Brown that next year, round 3.
Yes. So could they have used him more? Yes, I think they could have, but it didn't. Did it bother me they didn't use him more? No. They won 10 games in 2013. And then they got better when he wasn't playing offense. So I don't know if that's a correlation.
Okay. Just having Pat P back in the house.
Yes.
Do you come
We
around,
missed you, Paul.
Do you warm up anymore? I had to carry Wolf on his own show. Do you warm up to the concept of drafting corner at 16 overall? Just having Pat P around, remembering just how good he was, how vital he was to the Cardinals' success, what a luxury it was to have that number one cover corner where a defensive coordinator every single week said, you know what, you get the other team's number one, you're going to travel. Now we'll take the rest of the 10 and scheme from there.
I get what you're going. I don't think they're correlated. I think it proves the point of having P2 back in the building, the importance of having a competitor and having a true lockdown corner. I don't feel comfortable sitting here and saying, yes, absolutely, the Cardinals should take a cornerback at 16 because of that. Again, it goes back to the defensive line discussion of if that's the right fit. One of the big names that has been thrown around if there is a cornerback drafted at 16 Arizona is Will Johnson. I'm not going to sit here and say that a cornerback in general makes more sense as a whole over offensive line or defensive line, but I get your point of having Patrick Peterson back in the building and having that reminder.
Well, Dani has company because about 2 hours ago in that seat right there, Drew Stanton shut me down like a shutdown corner to Dani's tune. He said, yeah, Paul, you're not getting Patrick Peterson at 16 overall.
And that was the thing.
So stifle yourself.
Patrick was at 5. And the other funny part as we talk about this is what was the biggest conversation through the secondary during Patrick's career was who was going to play across from him. It was like they got the shutdown corner, and then every year it was like, okay, we need to find a second cornerback.
Well, Darren, can we just start with CB1? I mean, you're already moving on to CB2 at this point.
I mean, again, we talked about this last week. Do I see a need at cornerback? Not necessarily a need, but I'm like anything else, like defensive line. I'm even kind of coming around to the potential. I'm thinking it's very unlikely.
Don't say receiver.
But the potential of wide receiver.
At 16?
No.
Yeah.
Can't.
I wouldn't do it. But
Darren, you've been doing this too long to be swayed by the mock drafts like that. Come on, you know better than that.
You want to know? You know, one of the things that has stuck with me is I heard Mel Kiper on the radio, and he was talking about our good friend Matthew Golden, who is the receiver that a lot of people mocked him.
Yep.
And he's got speed. Did he run a 4.29?
I believe, yep.
But that's not what caught my ear from Mel Kiper. Tell me if this sounds familiar. Matthew Golden, why do you like him so much, Mel? He gets open. I mean, all I can hear is Jonathan Gannon saying, what does he want as receivers? Get open and catch the ball. Now, I can't speak to how much he catches the ball. I think he does a pretty good job of it. But if you get a guy that gets open and runs a 4.29, I'm just saying.
Well, Mel Kiper does have the Cardinals getting Tyler Booker, the guard, at 47. So,
which I know personally,
starting guard and receiver, whether it's 1-2 or 2-1.
I'm doing a happy dance if Tyler Booker is there at 47, and I'm sure the Cardinals would too. I just don't.
I'm telling you what's going to happen right now. Tyler Booker will fall, and he'll go to the end of the first round, and either stinking Detroit or Kansas City will fill a big need at guard, and they're going to steal just a dude in Tyler Booker. He's gonna fall to either the Lions or Kansas City Chiefs. Just book it right now.
You sound like you're angry about it.
Well, because they shouldn't get a guy like that at the end of the first round, but because of this slow 40 for a 330-pound guard.
How do you feel about Tyler Booker being drafted at the end of the first round if the Cardinals trade down from 16?
Yeah, see, I'll take that.
We keep talking about 16 and.
But Darren just told us teams aren't trading up in round 1. Darren just told us that.
I'm not going to sit here and say I'm that opposed. If they think he's the real deal at guard, take Booker at 16.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we're all in agreement. It just sounds like we're not.
Well, that's kind of our shtick.
Maybe.
I said this 2 months ago, and I'll say it again, and you can edit it out if you want. If
4 quarterbacks in the first round? What was that?
If we have to watch Big Cat Williams, Leonard Williams, destroy 2 games like he did for Seattle, who's now won 6 in a row, okay, then you got to do something about that. You got to do something about the Rams' young and athletic defensive front. You got to do something about the 49ers who are going to continue to invest resources and assets into the defensive line. That's the John Lynch way with the 49ers. So offensive guard, I would agree, if we are in agreement, is your most pressing need. It's not a want, it's a need.
Have you noticed that, like, he's like all into how Seattle and 49ers want to build their defensive line, and then when we talk about the Cardinals adding another defensive lineman, he gets all pissy.
No, I'm saying, you're going to need a separate team plane, all right? You're going to need Redbird 1 and Redbird 2 just
for the defensive line.
Just the defensive line at this point.
I know I sound like I'm just pandering to both sides, but I really do feel like the Cardinals are in such a good spot, because when you're talking about the two biggest positions of need on defensive line and offensive line, those are two great positions to need
True.
at 16. So I it almost feels like a cop-out. I don't know that there's a bad decision if that's what's made between those two positions at 16. For all the points we talked about with the depth and wanting to have that reliability and long-term on the defensive line, same holds true for the offensive line. Your starting left guard, Evan Brown, here for one more year. Isaiah Adams as your right guard is going into year 2. Do they feel confident that he is ready to be that player? There's question marks still on the offensive line, so it also makes sense. It just, I know it feels like a cop-out. It feels like offensive line or defensive line, both are great at 16.
See, Dani convinced me. They're not taking a receiver or cornerback at 16. What was I thinking?
Honestly, offensive guard, I think, is the greatest probability. And if they do go defensive front, I think it's edge before D tackle.
That's fair.
That's just where I am right now.
Speaking of defense, real quick, I did want to say on the Patrick Peterson stuff, and it ends up this kind of thought process was I also put in my mailbag. I know that there was a lot of fans out there that still feel some kind of way about Patrick Peterson and that whole thing. But one of the things I like about this, and I would think fans would like this too. Okay, maybe they're struggling with the Patrick stuff, but like I feel like over the years, this team, I think the Cardinals want to try and get better in terms of relationship with past players, past great players. They're going to work hard at it. This is one of those things. And without getting too big picture right now, we all know where we are as a country right now and how we feel about a lot of stuff. Getting past some past slights or whatever and like figuring it out and growing up and moving past things, that's what Patrick Peterson and the Cardinals have just done. Like, I think it's something to think about if you're a fan too. Like, let's move on a little bit.
And he owned it, right? I mean, I wasn't there, but the quote in your story, I cut and pasted it right here. This is Pat P. to the media, to everyone in attendance. I know there were a lot of things said, and it wasn't the greatest departure, but at the end of the day, this is where my legacy is. My career's here. It lives here. It was a no-brainer for me to come back here and retire a Cardinal. And from all accounts, he was the catalyst, right? He was the one who reached out to Michael Bidwill, said, let's talk. And he made amends with ownership, and that trickles down through the entire organization.
Yeah, that's accountability. And that is, and what he said was true, is this is where his career was. And I appreciate and respect him wanting to end it in the same place that it started and not walking on eggshells and pretending like his departure didn't happen the way that it did. He owned it. And I thought that was an important piece of what he was talking about at his press conference. I think it also shows when you have not just the amount, but the caliber of alumni that showed up, some who don't even live in town, to support Patrick Peterson. And there's pictures online of when you see them all on the stage of, there were, some star former Cardinals that were up there supporting P2. Garrett Williams, who didn't even play with the cornerback, was in the auditorium to watch, and that shows the respect. And I think that goes a long way as well, as when you see the players within the organization, past and present, supporting Patrick Peterson.
Love to see Tony Jefferson, my guy.
Yes, that is great. And look, if Pat P was sitting here right now and we were in the trust tree, and we're always in the trust tree, I would ask him, did you get some bad advice from your representation? When he made the trade request that one year, 18?
Yeah.
18.
It was 18.
Yeah, he's trying to renegotiate a contract mid-season. Like, that comes from his agent. And, he made that call to Dion and NFL Network. It was a lot of stuff. I'm like, I just think he's getting some bad advice from his advisor, from his agent. Anyway, I think he's come to realize that, there was him half joking in Minnesota, his first game against the Cardinals, right? And there he is on the field afterwards. All right, where's? And he's looking for certain people.
Look, if you, and this is going across the league, Paul, if you said, any long-term player, even star players, that said some things about their long-term team on their way out the door when everything's heated and your career is kind of winding down, and the player usually is the one who's the last to realize it. If you cut them off from their main team for forever, for that moment or those moments, you'd have a lot of all-time players that wouldn't have relationships with their teams, and it's just stupid.
Also, it does seem like it's fair to say that one of the people that P2 had most of his frustrations with is not even with the organization anymore.
Yep. And so, the moment that probably for me was the most poignant was Tyrann Mathieu.
Yep.
And the testimonial from the Honey Badger, and everything that Michael and Pat P said about how Tyrann Mathieu became a Cardinal is 100% true.
Yep.
Even to the point where, and I don't think they mentioned this aspect of it, Tyrann Mathieu was taken in by Pat P's parents who were in attendance once he was banished, expelled from LSU.
Yeah.
Like that was really his salvation in a lot of ways. They got him out of New Orleans, got him away from a lot of those bad influences that he grew up around. This is Tyrann telling it years later on the Big Red Rage. He actually opened up about it, and he thanked the entire Peterson family, how instrumental they were. And there's no doubt, if it wasn't for Pat P vouching for Tyrann Mathieu, he would not have been a third-round pick. He would have plummeted to day 3 at least of the draft. Cardinals took him. And Darren, you probably remember this. It was the first team OTA session. They're out in the backfield. It was closed to the media, and the veterans came off the field shaking their head, and there was some sort of buzz. And you say, hey, what's going on? What's going on? And a couple of guys said, there's a rookie putting on a show on that backfield. And that rookie was the Honey Badger.
Yeah. No, I mean, he turned out to be a great player. It's we don't need to rehash all the Tyrann Mathieu stuff, but I will say, like, it's funny now for the things he had the issues with, which was basically marijuana in college, and how different that all would be now as opposed to 2010. But regardless, he wouldn't have come here, especially for a relatively conservative organization, if it wasn't for Patrick saying, I promise you will not be regretting this pick. And they did not.
I'll just give you one last Paulie postcard, if you will. Some of my fondest memories of being a sideline reporter is Patrick Peterson breaking the huddle and coming to the Cardinals near sideline, and you're 10 feet away right across the white stripe, and there's Patrick Peterson lined up against Megatron, Julio Jones, A.J. Green, DeAndre Hopkins, Steve Smith Sr., his very first game. It was hand-to-hand combat. You've never seen a Tasmanian devil like Steve Smith Sr. on game day, and man, did Patrick Peterson get an introduction that day to the NFL. And it's just so remarkable because you're like, okay, that's the NFL when it's Pat P one-on-one against Calvin Johnson.
Yep.
And they're the 0.1% of football players on the planet.
Patrick still says, he told me that Calvin Johnson, that was the guy he enjoyed going up against the most.
Wow.
And since in those days it felt like the Cardinals played the Lions every single freaking season, he did it a lot.
Yes. Guess what else is back all of a sudden? Because it felt like every single freaking week I was losing when it came to Wise Guy.
It's time for The Wise Guy, the world's fastest growing Cardinals quiz show. The stakes are low. The winner gets absolutely nothing. Here's your hostess with the mostest, Dani Sureck.
I have missed that intro.
That does not include me. The reason it felt like every week I was losing because I was losing every week.
I think we should get Omo to give the intro to Dani, and she can use it as her ringtone.
I don't even think I would know how to change the ringtone from the one set on your phone to downloading something these days.
Come on, you know you could do
Remember
that.
the days where you used to have to wait to hear your favorite song play on the radio and then record just the right time to get that to be your ringtone?
You were around for that.
Yes, I was around for cell phones.
I think Dani needs to go
mixtapes, baby.
She needs to go Jimmy Kimmel and take this out on the streets, and just take Wise
that
Guy
would
out.
be fun. No, my first car actually was to connect it to my phone. It was a cassette tape on the other end.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
My good old 2001 Mazda Tribute. Okay, anyway.
There you go.
Paul, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt since this is my game and my rules, and I'm just going to let you pick first.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that an advantage?
And just so you guys know.
Okay. How many questions are there?
1, 2, 3, 4 before
Okay.
the tiebreaker. And just so you guys know, it's all Patrick Peterson related. So
Oh.
staying on brand.
I can't believe you already forgot. Like there were 4 questions.
So-
Like it hasn't been that long.
If it's P twice, I'm going with the number 2.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, here we go. Oh, I love that music. Patrick Peterson was selected by the Cardinals with the 5th overall pick in the 2011 NFL Draft. Can you name the offensive players taken 1 pick ahead and 1 pick behind? So we're looking for number
Okay.
4 and number 6.
So there were offensive players before and after. Okay. A.J. Green was 4. And Julio Jones was 6.
Correct.
Correct.
How about that?
Darren, you don't get to say correct. I get to
Oh,
say
my
correct.
bad. My bad.
Okay,
Jumped
Darren.
the gun there.
Pick a
Because
number.
those guys went against each other throughout their SEC careers.
Yes.
Darren?
Oh, I'm sorry. 1, please.
As a rookie in 2011, Patrick Peterson tied an NFL record by having 4 punt returns for touchdowns in a season. Name the opponents in the order in which the return touchdowns occurred.
Son
Paul
of
is
a
so happy he didn't
biscuit.
get this question.
That's a hard one. Panthers was the first one. Oh, man. I am drawing a blank. I know Rams was the last one. Crap. I'm drawing a blank of the middle 2.
All right, it was Panthers, Falcons, Lions, Rams.
Wow.
It was not,
I thought if I said it with conviction. Okay.
which I do appreciate. No.
Dang.
Panthers.
Yeah.
So that was correct. That was first. Panthers, Ravens, Rams,
Ravens.
Rams again.
Oh, it was 2 Rams.
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Twice again, St. Louis.
That's back when they were in St. Louis. You know what? That's the way it worked back in those St. Louis days when you could hear their phone ring on their sideline when you were in their dome.
And
their
also,
dome.
he should have had a 5th in the season finale against the Seahawks, and somehow John Ryan got like just a shoelace tackle. Otherwise, and that John Ryan was the punter. Otherwise, he would have had his 5th, and I thought for sure he was going to have his 5th.
What was more brutal, the shoelace tackle by the Seahawks punter or Peyton Manning tackling Calais Campbell before the goal line?
That was bad, and I went back and watched. Somebody was saying you need to show that video when Calais re-signed, and I watched it again. I'm like, the worst part was Calais had a blocker, and he just ignored him and could have easily got in. But I will say, given the gravity of the situation, it was Patrick. When he broke through,
what
and it
was on the line? Yeah.
one-on-one with John Ryan, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, he's going to get a 5th.
Question 3 or 4, Paul. You have the opportunity to seal the game here.
Oh
Okay.
my God.
Okay, 3 or 4. Okay, big one here. Okay, let's go 3. Because, anyway, go ahead. I'm overthinking it. Go ahead.
Don't overthink it.
Every
Okay.
time I'm on the verge of victory, I screw it up. Go ahead.
Well, don't get in your head about it.
Okay.
Patrick Peterson had 10 career catches on offense.
I'm like the Rory McIlroy of Wise Guy. Here we go.
6 of those receptions were thrown in 2013 by Carson Palmer. Name the 2 other Cardinals QBs who connected with Peterson on the remaining 4 receptions. Hint, think 2011 and 2012.
Okay. Drew Stanton, Ryan Lindley.
Can't give it to you, I'm sorry.
I'm going to go with Ryan. I'm going to go with Ryan Lindley and John Skelton.
He's back in the game!
There's no way.
I couldn't
Darren
figure.
with the
I figured
steal.
it was either Skelton or Cobb, and I.
Man, how the tables
You
have
know what?
turned.
You're right, because Stanton obviously didn't show up till 13.
No, that was a yeah.
That was a
Once she gave you the
mental-
hints, that changed my thought process.
Okay. Here we go.
All right.
Okay,
That's it.
Darren.
That
So
was
now I could steal, right?
again.
Yes.
That was me missing a 5-foot putt.
All right.
Okay. In 2011, which television announcer was on the call for all 4 of Patrick Peterson's punt return touchdowns?
See his freaking face, and Paul's gonna know it too. Damn it.
Oh my gosh.
I'm drawing a blank on the name. I do not know the name. Sam Rosen.
Wow. Against all odds, just before the buzzer, Darren gets it correct.
It popped into my head.
No way.
It popped into my head.
Was there? I can't. If I could see through the glass, are you sure there wasn't?
I don't know why that all of a sudden got in my head, but it did.
Sure, there wasn't a performance enhancer there at the very
I kept
end.
wanting to say Sam Ryan. Who's Sam Ryan? Is that somebody?
I think that's a sideline reporter.
Oh,
I
is
believe.
it?
I think maybe.
Okay.
Well, since we don't do these often.
Doesn't count.
Oh, dang.
He didn't beat the buzzer.
Whoa!
Oh, upon further
Something
review.
that has never happened. It's been overturned.
There were triple zeros on the clock, and the
Oh,
light.
My bad.
The light was illuminated.
I thought the answer came in
Whatever.
before the buzzer,
He
and I
just
stand
wants a
corrected by
tiebreaker.
Jim
Wow.
Alejandro.
The
Okay.
only reason Omo did that
Yep.
is because he wants a tiebreaker.
Well,
Here
Omo
we
gets
go.
what Omo
I
wants.
consider this a
So
win, and I'm protesting all the way to the.
you know what? You shouldn't
Roger
be
Goodell,
nervous.
for
I don't
God's
think
sake.
Paul has ever beaten you in a tiebreaker.
It goes beyond Omo. They reviewed it in New York, and they came back, and
Okay.
That was also the
Yep.
shortest buzzer I've ever gotten.
Here we go.
Okay, here we go.
Yep.
Lock in. Here's the first tiebreaker question. Remember, you guys will write this down and then show me your answers, okay?
Yes.
Oh, for
Okay.
Pete's sake. Okay.
How many career receiving yards did Patrick Peterson have?
Oh, no. I didn't look at that stat. So if he had 30-something catches. Okay. I'll say.
Darren has shown me his answer on paper.
Okay, here
So
we
when
go.
you're ready, Paul, you can say yours out loud.
284.
Whoa.
I'm going 63.
The answer is 64.
What? How do you have 30-something catches for 64 yards?
10
10
catches.
career catches.
Oh, yeah, 10 career catches.
I think you remember me saying he had 38 snaps one season.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
I was really hoping you guys were going to somehow guess the same answer because the second tiebreaker question would have been so tough. How many of Patrick Peterson's career receptions went for first downs?
I'm gonna say.
I'm going to say 1.
I'm gonna say 3.
It was 3. So you were fine, Darren.
Okay. See, Darren researches all this before he writes
Sam
the story.
freaking Rosen.
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
That was
well,
fun.
there you go. That's, once again, you know what? I'm bringing back the word now, Balderdash. So there you go. I'm bringing that back here as we discuss that. By the way, Cam Skattebo
Yes.
has been in the building. According to reports, Cam Skattebo has already visited the Arizona Cardinals.
Okay, I want to clarify something.
What do we
here.
make of that?
I want to clarify something. A NFL team, I think the distance is 30 miles. If an NFL team is within 30 miles of a school, you can bring in any player from that school, and
It doesn't count? Your
it
top
doesn't
30?
count. It doesn't count as a 30 visit.
Oh.
So Cam Skattebo, anybody decent, Cam Skattebo was always going to visit the Cardinals because why wouldn't he?
Well, yeah, I guess. All right.
Sorry to throw cold water on all the reports out there, everybody. I know everybody gets geeked up when they say, oh, Cam Skattebo visited. Yeah, he was always going to visit.
How many Cardinals jerseys would Cam Skattebo sell?
That's a fair question.
A ton.
He would.
I mean,
Would he have more jerseys sold than Jake Plummer did?
see, I was just going to say, there are definitely Jake Plummer, Pat Tillman vibes about Cam Skattebo, who, in my opinion, you follow ASU football closer than I do, but I don't think there's been a player as popular in this state from ASU football since Jake Plummer, Pat Tillman as Cam Skattebo.
Well, then let me
I'm
ask
with
you
you.
this. If Skattebo ends up on another team, are ASU fans, Arizona residents going to buy his jersey simply because they loved him at ASU?
Yes.
Let's say he goes to Detroit.
Yes.
Right? Everyone's going to buy a Cam Skattebo Lions jersey?
I don't know if everybody was. And I would also clarify this. Again, there's nuance there. If you are a huge ASU fan, but you're a huge Cardinal fan, you might hesitate. If you are just an ASU fan, and there are plenty of ASU fans that don't really pay attention to this team, I absolutely think they would.
Okay. Well, they're going to keep selling, I would imagine, the Cam Skattebo jersey in the ASU team shop for many years to come.
And see,
So-
that's the thing. If you're a Cardinals fan, you could still get a Skattebo ASU
Who knows?
jersey.
They might put his jersey up in the rafters 2 months after graduating.
Hey, I think the Lions actually come to Arizona this year. I like how we just assumed
know. Did
he's
you guys-
going to the Lions.
Do you guys not like my joke about Colorado just now? No, you didn't like it.
I didn't get it.
Okay.
I didn't get it.
That they're already retiring the numbers of Travis Hunter and
Oh,
Shedeur
yeah, yeah,
Sanders.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
You guys didn't get my okay.
No, I didn't. I did
If
not realize
we had a
that
getting
bit.
cultured segment this week,
Yes.
I guess I could have let you guys know what's
If
going on.
I was up on my current events, I would have.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, they have
Actually, now that you
announced-
mention
Yeah.
I did, because somebody was saying, there was a writer up in Denver who was saying he totally understands Travis Hunter. He thinks Shedeur Sanders has been excellent, but he was talking about there needs to be a little bit of a cooling off period before
Is
you
it
make that
recency
decision.
bias?
And there's a former Colorado receiver who played briefly in the NFL, Darren Shiverini, who is a head coach in college now, and he had this big long post about what about all these other guys that were stars for Colorado and they never had their jerseys retired? Rashawn Salam does, but it took him 12 years to get it retired.
Really?
But
Because he won the Heisman, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Cordell Stewart doesn't have his jersey retired.
Oh, yeah, that's a
And
crime.
you could argue that Cordell Stewart had a better college
Sure.
career than Shedeur
Yeah.
Sanders. And this isn't to take away from Shedeur Sanders, but
Just felt soon.
Pull in what you do is you pull in a Illini basketball and you just put up Shedeur Sanders' jersey upside down. You just elevate it to the rafters and
not winning behavior.
passive aggressive. Look, maybe 18 years from now you might have your jersey retired like Calais Campbell. Instead of 18 weeks after the season ends, here's Calais Campbell, and he was there. You're a large human being when you get a collection of former NFL players, right, for the group photo, and you're towering over everybody, right? There's a ton of dudes that are 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", and then there's Calais Campbell in the group photo on stage.
Not untrue, but I think one of the greatest moments of the day was they got these special T-shirts made up for Patrick's retirement. And they gave them to all the players. And I think the biggest one they had was a 2XL. And I didn't think there's any way that was going to fit Calais Campbell. And it did. He put it on.
Good. All right. Well, he's watching his weight, the big man. Of course, Wolf did ask him his weight when he was sitting right there last
Did
week.
he really?
So, of course, it's the obligatory, What's amazing,
Does
though,
Calais weigh more than Wolf?
wow. Okay. I'm going to let him
I want
know.
no part in this conversation.
Yeah. I'm going to let him know you said that.
Just asking.
It's amazing. I don't know if it's amazing. I guess to me it raises an eyebrow. Calais does not hesitate to assert in each and every interview that he's still dominant.
Oh, yes. I've noticed that.
He uses the word dominant. 35 snaps or so, I will be dominant.
He makes it very clear.
Yeah.
If he gets past 35 snaps, there could be a few
Sure.
issues.
Yeah.
You know what, though? He's not wrong. And I can understand that when you're going into year 18, you don't want the whole discussion around that part of your career or signing with the team to be, oh, here we go, end of his career, nothing left, not going to add much. When you look at what Campbell has done the last few years, not the case at all. Similar to how we were talking about the accountability with Patrick Peterson, I appreciate the accountability from Calais Campbell saying, yeah, you want me to play 35 snaps, you will get domination. I will give you everything I have. Don't come to me for 50, 60-plus snaps in a game.
I'm going to say this, too. And it sounds like it should go without saying, but it doesn't always go without saying. This organization and the front office with Monty Ossenfort, I 100% am sure that Monty Ossenfort, and I know Michael Bidwell said a couple things about going to Monty and telling him, hey, if Calais wants to play, that's somebody we really should look at. And I have no doubt that he put in his 2 cents. I also have zero doubt that if Monty Ossenfort did not feel like Calais Campbell could come in and be significantly impactful and not just come here for a swan song, I do not believe Monty Ossenfort would have signed him.
And Campbell clarified, not clarified, he
Confirmed.
He confirmed, thank you, that the Cardinals were one of the teams interested right before the trade deadline. Monty Ossenfort's not doing that if he's just doing this to be nice to Campbell to come near the end of his career and come back to Arizona.
Yeah, he was aware. Calais said there were 8 teams. Cardinals were one of them, and it sounds like he would have been in favor of that. He would have definitely been, so.
And when was the trade deadline? Was that right around the bye?
It's right after it was going into week 9 or after week 9, and the Cardinals played the Dolphins in week 8. So it was right after the Dolphins game.
So
early November.
So right when they were in first place. That would have been
Yes.
interesting to add him to a first place team.
Yep, no doubt. Problem was the Dolphins weren't totally out of it yet, and so they didn't make the move. By the way, the Dolphins right now, the way things are trending, and they feel like they have to trade Jalen Ramsey, Dolphins are my hot take team to plummet next season.
Yeah, Tua Tagovailoa had just come back after missing some games right around that time, so Miami thought they were in it.
I'm going to throw out as long as you brought the Jalen Ramsey thing, I've seen some things out there about how the Cardinals could be one of those teams that could be interested in him. And again, it just kind of makes me smile because we've had this with some other players. Jalen Ramsey, great talent, but between the money he makes and kind of the personality he's bringing in the locker room, does not seem at all like a fit to a Jonathan Gannon team. That's just me.
Yeah, no doubt. Speaking of Monty Ossenfort, what was the movie Mean Girls, where they tried to speak the word fetch right into existence?
I'm intrigued.
Yes.
Yeah.
Getting culture with Paul.
Okay. I'm trying to get.
They say stop trying to make fetch happen,
Yes.
Paul.
Yeah. So this is where we're going to stop trying to make something happen here.
Right. You might accuse me, but I'm trying to
stop trying to make Boulderdash happen.
No, okay. If not Balderdash, then mixologist. There are GMs and then there are mixologists. The premier GMs in the NFL should be referred to as mixologists, just like a mixologist is above and beyond just a mere bartender. Did you know that they consider a mixologist someone who's skilled in making mixed drinks, right, who has studied the history of mixed drinks and cocktails? They often know the significance behind each ingredient in a drink, and they understand the impact of each mixing technique. This comes up because I got dragged. I went to an event on Saturday night where we went to this speakeasy type place where they had jazz playing and the whole thing, and some good friends of ours.
Speakeasies are cool.
And in his younger days, a long time ago, he was a bartender. And we're sitting there, and he's like, I don't recognize 2/3 of the liqueurs up on this shelf. And the people behind the bar were next level in terms of making these crazy drinks that you've never heard of. And the menu was vast and all this crazy stuff. So I'm like, okay, these aren't merely bartenders. These are mixologists. And if right now in the NFL, if you're a Howie Roseman, for example, you're not just a GM, you're a mixologist, right? You've mastered the art of mixing together a roster. Is there any traction there whatsoever? Are you with me at this point as I fine-tune it on the fly and I should have been more prepared?
Couple points. One, you should have been more prepared because this segment absolutely should have come with some cocktails for us. So that's number one.
Right.
Number two, I actually am vibing on that a little bit. I actually can kind of see like the next level GMs.
There needs to be some sort of terminology for because you can't put a Howie Roseman at this point in the same conversation with like a Trent Baalke, right? Who was just fired, and you look at Trent Baalke's career, and he's hired like Jim Tom Sula and Chip Kelly and Urban Meyer, right? And you look at there just needs to be another term reserved for those who are crushing.
As we head towards the draft, you want to make sure we have that.
Just thought I'd throw that out there for consideration. Dani's perplexed.
I like the idea. I just don't want to share names of GMs and who I think is a bartender and who I think is a mixologist.
I see. Okay. Well, see, I don't hesitate. I think Colts GM Chris Ballard, he hasn't replaced Andrew Luck. And if I'm looking here, like Phillip Rivers and Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan and Nick Foles and Gardner Minshew and Anthony Richardson and now Daniel Jones and Joe Flacco was in there as well. So, there's just comes a point, where just saying.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just biting my tongue.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. Next question. According to this, speaking of phones and connecting your phone via cassette, what if you had to go without your phone for an entire weekend at the Masters? I did not know that rule until this year. I had no idea.
You didn't?
I did not know that rule whatsoever.
Oh, yeah. You're lucky you don't get sniped out there if you do some certain things. I mean, they crack down on a lot of stuff.
A lot of rules.
My 15-year-old, the power of TikTok, my 15-year-old said, Dad, did you know you can still get a sandwich at the Masters for $1.50? Like, how did you know that? She never heard of the Masters in her life, but because it's featured on TikTok, boom, all of a sudden.
Yeah, you have to call them patrons. They're not allowed to run.
Exactly.
No cell phones.
Yes.
So
I kind of like it.
I like the idea. I would want to have... I wouldn't want to just generally say, hey, you're not going to have your phone for 2 days. I would want to be at an event of why it's taking up your time, right? Doesn't that make sense?
But it mandates you soak in the experience,
Yo,
right?
no,
You can bring a
with you
digital
there.
camera for pictures. What if there's an emergency? Are you allowed to have an Apple Watch?
That's a good question.
How about going to space? Did you see the headline where the group of celebrity women went
I didn't
into
even
space?
know about that until like it was over, and I saw the GIF of Gayle King ringing the bell unhappily.
Looking very unenthused.
So if there are two kinds of people, those who will and will not sit in the splash zone to come full circle, those who will and will not go into space. Dani, which one of those are you?
I'm not going into space. I think it's cool. Look, there are too many things that could go wrong for the 11 minutes they were up in the stratosphere.
Let me put it this way, Paul. They don't make movies where it doesn't go wrong going into space. Every space movie, something goes wrong. There's either some huge alien or monster or something falls off the damn spaceship. I'm not going to space.
Okay. Let me paint a picture for you.
What about the astronauts who were just stuck in like I don't know.
Yeah,
too many things could go wrong.
You guys see that window right there? And the
Yeah.
blind's closed, right?
Yes.
What if I opened that blind and the moon was right there, right in front of your face?
It's
What if you were
cool.
right there and
Yes.
it was like looking across the street and there's the surface of the moon? Wouldn't that be cool and worthwhile?
Well, my first
What
thought
do you
was,
consider
what did Omo
worthwhile
do
if
to
you
the
don't make it
studio
back?
that we could take it off and get into space?
So you would go into space, Paul.
Absolutely, yeah.
He's an aliens guy. Why wouldn't he?
That's true.
Well, yeah, I'd see for myself.
Which is
you
why
know.
of all songs for Katy Perry to sing, she did not sing E.T. I
What
don't
did
know
she
why
sing?
you're not singing that in space. What'd she sing? I don't.
Well,
It's
we
a
don't have to
Wonderful
look it up.
World or something.
Oh yeah, I like that song. Winning behavior, baby.
Okay. What else? Any other closing comments? What else did I miss here?
Winning behavior.
Oh, winning behavior. You're right. Okay. Darren's trying to segue. He's
I'm trying. I tried to gently.
You can lead a horse to water. Doesn't mean I'm going to. And I just screwed
Paul's just-
something else up. That's our third edit by my count, by the way. Winning behavior, please.
I see you. Let's go.
Can you display winning behavior? You have to consistently display winning behavior.
That's winning behavior.
You got to define what winning behavior is and hold people to that standard.
Yes.
All right, who's going to bad lead off here? We already talked about whether you're going to go to space or not, but now
that's true.
Speaking of galaxy and space, there's a phone.
Okay, so this has been gnawing at me, and I think it's because I saw this commercial a billion times during the NCAA tournament because it's one of the NCAA sponsors. Don't know how much basketball you guys were watching, so I don't know if you've seen this commercial, but it's a kid and he's got a Galaxy phone, and when he wakes up, he's like hitting the button, and like it's talking about how this measured how great sleep he has, and it tells him what's going to happen for the day and everything. But it really sticks in my craw because at one point it says you're supposed to go for a run, and it says, I think they're supposed to be in San Francisco. It says San Francisco, temperature 24 degrees.
In San Francisco.
Well, that's what it says on the thing. San Francisco, 24 degrees, and I'm assuming that's where he is.
Is that Celsius?
And then he just pops out of bed and goes out into a relatively sunny street, and I'm like, you're not going for a jog when it's 24 degrees?
Yes, he is.
Well, apparently he is.
If you're training for something, yes, you are.
Actually, I take
He was
that
not
back.
dressed as he was training something.
You don't know if he was training for a marathon.
If you ever went to a San Francisco Giants game in July at Candlestick Park,
Have
it was
done that.
It was about 24 degrees.
Yes, this is true,
Yeah.
especially when you're in the upper deck.
Yes, indeed. So, okay. All right. But Darren, you got Detroit on your birth certificate. You don't have any choice. I mean, if you're living out in that sort of environment.
This is true.
Yeah. Okay.
It really bugs me. It was a commercial. You could have made it any temperature you wanted, and you made it 24 degrees.
That makes me think of the, it's a couple years old now, but that viral interview, the news interview, it's like the sun hasn't even come up in the morning, and there's a little bit of ice on the road, and there's a news reporter, and there's two people running behind her.
Oh, I've seen that
And
one.
she says, why are you guys running right now? And the woman says, this is actually the perfect weather to run in. And as they run past the reporter and the camera pans, the woman slips on the ice in the street like 3 seconds after
It's
running away.
hilarious. That was good.
Here's a headline. I'll throw this in. I'm going off the board. I saw this headline earlier today, maybe because it is tax day. Former postal worker stole $1.6 million in checks, including tax refunds. So Americans, be on the lookout at your mailbox.
I've never understood that completely. Like,
It's a lot of checks.
you can just take a check and write your name on it, and nobody thinks twice about it these days.
I guess it depends what neighborhood you're serving as a postal worker, depending on the check, right?
I guess.
So there's that. So you guys managed to work in the PFF mock draft machine.
Well, I just thought it was
It's amazing how you guys work that in. How was that relevant, Darren?
Kyler was recently quoted as saying that he's used that mock draft machine.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. All
I
right.
thought that was, and I have partaken of once or several dozen times.
A day.
And once again, it's give us a 10-second recap. You're actually, is it like AI generated or?
Yeah, they have like an algorithm. They've got it set up where you click on the team and it generates the rest of the draft. So in this case, I'm doing the Cardinals. When they come up, you make the picks. You can make some trades. It's addicting.
And then we have a walk-off entry here into winning behavior. Who is the person who put this entry in? It begins with the words, "Oh dear."
That was me.
I'll let you pick it up from there.
This would not be winning behavior. A woman in Australia unknowingly gave birth to a stranger's baby, which, if you just ended it there, it's a head scratcher. After she received another patient's embryo from her in vitro fertilization clinic due to, quote, human error, unquote. That is such not human winning behavior there.
I mean, there's human error for getting that in 2011, 2012. Drew Stanton wasn't on the roster and then there's human error.
I mean,
oh boy.
I
don't even
am
know
not a
what you do
female.
after that.
I do not know how to really wrap my head around carrying a child in the first place, and to think that you would carry somebody else's embryo. That's a whole lot of like.
I'm officially
sick to your
uncomfortable.
stomach.
I'm pretty sure I'm uncomfortable right now. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say on that.
It's not winning behavior.
Not winning behavior.
Now Danny's saying, I really do want to talk about Paul's let there be a fourth QB.
Yeah, let's go back to that.
Yeah, all of a sudden.
Balderdash, baby.
Exactly. Now there's some Balderdash for you. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. Okay. All right. Well, tis the season.
I have a read, Paul.
Oh, no. Okay, here we go.
Would you like to win a Kyler Murray autographed football?
Yes.
The Arizona Cardinals podcast sweepstakes is open now through April 24th.
Oh.
Enter now at ArizonaCardinals.com/listen to win, all one word. Then subscribe to Arizona Cardinals podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify to boost your chances. That's ArizonaCardinals.com/listen to win.
AZ Cardinals.
AZ Cardinals.
.com, yeah, /listen to win. Okay.
Although, believe it or not, if you go to ArizonaCardinals.com, it will come up.
It will kick to you. Okay, that's good. All right. So, and it's a what again? A Kyler Murray signed football?
Yes.
Pretty
Okay.
cool.
All
We only
right.
have one more
I'm
episode.
hoping Omo enjoyed my read and says, "Ooh, maybe I can use Darren for reads once in a while."
I doubt that.
Probably
I can't believe
not.
we only have one more episode before draft.
You know what? I'm not talking to Omo anymore. He said Sam Rosen was after the buzzer, so bleep him.
Yeah, I know that caught me
Yeah.
by surprise.
Well, that's good. Darren and Kyler have one thing in common. They both make enough time in between PFF mock draft machines to write something. Kyler signing his name and Darren to write a couple articles
There
here
you
and
go.
there
I
at
like that.
azcardinals.com.
That was excellent.
And so QB1 and Darren Urban in the same sentence for the first and only time ever. That'll do it for this edition of Cardinals Underground, brought to you by Pacific Office Automation.